Let's talk about the Supreme Court ruling on Haitian TPS. My name is Ruth Jean, and I am an immigration lawyer practicing in the United States. Here's the simplest way to understand the ruling in terms of what it did not do. The Supreme Court did not decide that Haiti is safe. The Supreme Court did not decide that every Haitian with TPS has to leave immediately. Instead, the Supreme Court answered a very important legal question. The question that they answered was, can federal courts stop the government's decision to end TPS while the lawsuit is still pending and being fought? The Supreme Court essentially said, no, the federal courts cannot. The court ruled that Congress wrote the TPS statute in a way that gives the Secretary of Homeland Security broad authority to decide whether to end TPS for a country. The court also said that in general, judges are not allowed to second guess those decisions by reviewing arguments that the government didn't properly evaluate country conditions, or by reviewing arguments that the government didn't follow the correct administrative procedures. In other words, the Supreme Court basically said that most of the legal arguments that challenged the termination of TPS could not even be reviewed by the courts at all. Now, the court also looked at another argument made in the TPS case for Haiti specifically. The plaintiffs in that case argued that the decision to terminate Haiti's TPS was motivated by racial discrimination. The Supreme Court basically said, surprisingly, that based on the evidence that they had before them, those claims are not likely to succeed. So, those claims could not justify keeping TPS in place while the lawsuit continues. Now, what does this all mean? It means that the lower federal court's order that blocked the termination of TPS has been reversed. But, and this is a very important but, that lower case is not over. That case is still pending, and there's still a decision that needs to be made on that case. The Supreme Court sent the case back to the lower court. Now the lower court must continue the case using the rules that were announced by the Supreme Court. Now, because the Supreme Court ruled that most Administrative Procedure Act claims cannot even be reviewed, the lawsuit is much narrower than it was before. Going forward, the plaintiffs will likely focus on those constitutional claims of racial discrimination that remain available to them, and also any other legal arguments that were not barred by the Supreme Court's decision. Now, this decision also opens the door for something else. Until now, lower courts around the country had been issuing orders or injunctions stopping the government from ending TPS for several countries, not just the countries involved in this lawsuit. After this particular decision, it will be much more difficult for courts to issue those kind of nationwide orders, because the Supreme Court has basically, from their opinion, made it clear that most challenges to TPS termination decisions cannot be reviewed by the courts under the Administrative Procedure Act. In practical terms, this basically gives the federal government much greater authority to terminate TPS designations without being blocked or reviewed by the court, and essentially gives broad authority to end TPS however they wish. The impact of this is that individuals who are on TPS who already have removal orders may and will likely be targeted for removal. Those who are not in removal or deportation proceedings may and will likely be targeted to be placed in proceedings. Essentially, it will have the impact of targeting individuals who have lived here lawfully for decades, paid taxes, and contributed to our society. But remember, the government cannot just pick someone up and deport them right away. There is still due process. So this means that it's not a time to panic. It's a time to stay informed. It's a time to determine if there are other immigration options available. And it is certainly time, if you have not done so, to consult with an immigration lawyer. Every case is different, and your future can depend on the next move that you make. Now, should you wish to consult with us, you can call us at 954-278-9332. 954-278-9332.